All right, let's dive into ancient India. We're going deep, from the very first civilization all the way to the Mughals.
A vast expanse of time and history packed with fascinating stories and incredible figures.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a wild ride, uncovering lost cities, powerful empires, and ideas that have shaped the world.
Ideas that still resonate today, in fact. From spirituality to mathematics, ancient India's contributions are truly remarkable.
And to really grasp its significance, we need to start at the beginning. Before the empires, before the great religions, even before writing as we know it.
We're going back to the Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban societies, flourishing in what is now Pakistan and northwest India.
A civilization so advanced they had planned cities with grid systems, sanitation, even indoor plumbing, all this around 3500 BCE. Imagine that.
It truly challenges our assumptions about what constitutes a complex society. These were sophisticated people, masters of urban planning and trade.
And they had a written language, although it remains undeciphered to this day. Think about it. A whole civilization speaking to us through symbols we can't yet understand.
It's a tantalizing mystery, and it fuels the ongoing quest to unlock the secrets of the Indus script. What stories are waiting to be told?
Right. And it's not just the writing. Their cities, like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, reveal a lot about their culture. And here's the thing. There's no obvious evidence of palaces or temples.
Exactly. It's a puzzle. Did they have a different kind of social structure, one without a rigid hierarchy? Were they a more egalitarian society? We're still piecing together the puzzle.
And then, around 1500 BCE, this incredible civilization vanished. Just like that. What happened? Was it a natural disaster? Climate change? Invaders? The theories abound.
It's one of the great mysteries of ancient history. The Indus people left behind a rich legacy, but also many unanswered questions.
Speaking of legacies, the arrival of the Aryans around this time marks a turning point. These Indo-European pastoralists brought their own language, beliefs, and social structures to India.
And their language, Sanskrit, became the foundation for many modern Indian languages. It's also the language of the Vedas, the sacred texts that form the basis of Hinduism.
The Rig Veda, the oldest of these texts, dates back to about 1500 BCE. It's a collection of hymns, prayers, and mythological stories, offering insights into the early Aryan worldview.
It speaks of a polytheistic belief system, with gods representing natural forces and cosmic principles. We see the beginnings of ideas that would later develop into core Hindu concepts.
And alongside their religious beliefs, they also brought a social hierarchy that would profoundly shape India: the caste system.
The caste system, or Varna, divided society into four main groups: the Brahmins, priests and scholars; the Kshatriyas, warriors and rulers; the Vaishyas, merchants and farmers; and the Shudras, laborers.
This system, while controversial for its inherent inequalities, provided a framework for social order and determined roles and occupations within society.
It had a profound impact on daily life, shaping interactions, opportunities, and even one's sense of identity.
So what was daily life like in ancient India? What can we glean from the sources about family, roles, and societal norms?
Family was central, considered the bedrock of society. The father was the head of the household, and sons were expected to study the Vedas under the guidance of a guru.
And women. What were their roles?
Women's roles were primarily centered around the home and family. They were responsible for raising children, managing the household, and upholding family traditions.
It definitely paints a picture of a patriarchal society. And practices like sati, where a widow was expected to immolate herself on her husband's funeral pyre, highlight this subordinate position of women.
It's a stark reminder of the gender disparities that existed. However, it's important to acknowledge that ancient Indian texts also celebrate female strength, wisdom, and even sexuality.
It's never a simple picture, is it?
Mm-hmm.
There's complexity and nuance in every society.
Absolutely. Just like today, ancient India had a range of views and practices, and understanding that complexity is key.
Speaking of complexity, let's move on to the evolution of religious beliefs. Brahmanism, the precursor to Hinduism, emerges as a fascinating blend of Aryan and indigenous Indian beliefs.
Imagine a vast pantheon of 33,000 deities, each god and goddess representing different aspects of the divine, a vibrant tapestry of myths and stories.
It's mind-boggling. Like, take Indra, the god of war and storms. They imagined him wielding thunderbolts, reflecting the power of nature in their deities.
And then we have the Hindu trinity, Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer, embodying the cyclical nature of existence.
It's an idea that speaks to the interconnectedness of all things, a concept that would become central to Hinduism.
And as Brahmanism transformed into Hinduism, it became more accessible to ordinary people, offering a path to liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
And that path was often illustrated through epic tales like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Initially, secular stories, they were interwoven with religious teachings and moral lessons.
The Ramayana, for example, tells the story of Prince Rama, who was eventually elevated to an incarnation of Vishnu. It became a powerful vehicle for transmitting religious ideas.
And speaking of paths to liberation, we can't forget the Bhagavad Gita. It's essentially a dialogue within the Mahabharata between the warrior Arjuna and his charioteer Krishna, who is revealed to be an avatar of Vishnu.
This dialogue explores profound themes of duty, righteousness, and the pursuit of liberation. It's considered a spiritual guidebook for Hindus, offering timeless wisdom on navigating life's complexities.
And let's not forget the powerful goddess Durga, also known as Shakti or Devi. She's a complex figure, both a fierce warrior and a protective mother, embodying both strength and compassion.
Her presence in ancient texts highlights the importance of the feminine divine in Hinduism, and she continues to be a revered figure today.
So much to explore. But before we get too deep into Hinduism, we should also touch on the emergence of asceticism around the 6th century BCE.
Ascetics believed that renouncing worldly possessions and subjecting themselves to physical disciplines could lead to spiritual liberation.
It sounds intense. So they're essentially trying to transcend the physical realm to achieve a higher state of consciousness.
Precisely. And this practice laid the groundwork for the development of yoga, which has now become a global phenomenon, but originated in this ascetic tradition.
Now, to truly understand Hinduism and even other Indian religions, we need to grasp three core concepts: dharma, karma, and samsara. What exactly do these mean?
Dharma encompasses duty, righteousness, and ethical conduct. It's about living in harmony with the universe and fulfilling your purpose.
So it's like a moral compass guiding you towards a righteous life.
Exactly. Then there's karma, the law of cause and effect. Every action, good or bad, generates consequences that shape your future, not just in this life, but also in future lives.
It's like a cosmic balancing act, ensuring that actions have repercussions. And lastly, samsara. What's that all about?
Samsara is the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The ultimate goal in Hinduism is to break free from this cycle and achieve moksha, or liberation.
It's a profound concept, suggesting a journey of spiritual evolution across multiple lifetimes.
Exactly. And these ideas laid the foundation for other religions that emerged in ancient India, like Jainism and Buddhism.
Speaking of which, Jainism, inspired by the Upanishads, found a powerful voice through Vardhamana Mahavira.
Mahavira was born into a wealthy family, but he renounced his privileged life to seek spiritual liberation. He taught that everything in the universe has a soul and therefore deserves compassion.
So a philosophy centered on universal compassion and nonviolence.
Precisely. And Jainism takes nonviolence, or ahimsa, to an extreme level. They sweep the ground before walking, strain their water, and follow a strict vegetarian diet, all to avoid harming any living creature.
It's a radical commitment to minimizing harm.
It is. And while such strict adherence might be challenging for most, it provided a compelling alternative, especially for those marginalized by the rigid caste system.
It offered a path to spiritual liberation that transcended social status. Now, let's shift our focus to Buddhism, another major player in the world of Eastern religions. It all started with Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha.
Siddhartha's story is remarkable. Born into a life of privilege, he was shielded from suffering. But once he encountered the realities of sickness, old age, and death, he was deeply troubled.
It made him question everything he thought he knew about life, right?
Exactly. He left his comfortable life to seek answers, to understand the nature of suffering and how to overcome it.
And what did he discover?
After years of meditation and contemplation, he realized that attachment is the root of all suffering. Our clinging to desires, possessions, and even our own sense of self creates a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction.
So to end suffering, you have to let go of attachment.
Precisely. This realization led him to enlightenment, and he became known as the Buddha, the awakened one.
So what are the core tenets of Buddhism? What did he teach?
He taught that the path to liberation lies in understanding the Four Noble Truths, that life is inherently filled with suffering, that suffering arises from attachment, that suffering can cease, and that there's a path to achieve this cessation of suffering.
And that path is the Eightfold Path.
Exactly. It's a practical guide to ethical and mindful living, encompassing right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration.
It's a holistic approach, focusing on cultivating wisdom, compassion, and mental discipline.
And a key distinction from Hinduism is that Buddhism rejects the caste system, emphasizing the inherent equality of all beings.
So both Jainism and Buddhism offered alternative paths to liberation, challenging existing social norms and offering a different perspective on the human condition.
They emerged during a time of great intellectual and spiritual ferment in India, a period of questioning and exploration that led to a diverse tapestry of beliefs.
But let's not forget the impact of empires, which played a huge role in shaping ancient India's story. Starting with Alexander the Great, whose armies reached India in 326 BCE.
Although his stay was brief, Alexander's conquests left a mark, introducing Greek cultural elements that blended with existing Indian traditions.
It shows how even brief encounters can have a lasting impact, leaving behind traces of cultural exchange that enriched civilizations.
It highlights the interconnectedness of the ancient world, a world where ideas, goods, and people traveled vast distances.
And after Alexander's departure, a new power rose in India, the Mauryan Empire, founded by Chandragupta Maurya.
Chandragupta was a skilled strategist and administrator who unified much of northern India. He was influenced by the Arthasastra, an ancient Indian treatise on statecraft.
It shows they were already thinking deeply about governance and the art of ruling. But it's his grandson, Ashoka, who really stands out.
Ashoka's story is one of transformation. He began as a ruthless conqueror, but after witnessing the horrors of war, he converted to Buddhism and devoted himself to spreading peace and nonviolence.
A remarkable change of heart. How did he promote his new beliefs?
He erected pillars throughout his kingdom inscribed with his edicts, promoting Buddhist principles of compassion and ethical conduct. These pillars stand today as a testament to his commitment to a just and righteous rule.
It's incredible how leaders can shape the moral landscape, leaving behind a legacy that extends far beyond their reign. But after Ashoka's death, the Mauryan Empire crumbled. What happened?
Like many empires, it faced a combination of internal and external pressures, weak successors, internal conflicts, and invasions from outside forces. It's a reminder that even the most powerful empires are vulnerable to decline.
And from the ashes of the Mauryan Empire rose the Kushan Empire, established by Indo-European tribes from Bactria in modern-day Afghanistan.
The Kushans were strategically positioned along the Silk Road, facilitating trade between Rome and China. They became key players in the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures.
It's fascinating how empires rise and fall, each leaving its own mark on history. And the Kushans, despite their relatively short reign, had a significant impact, particularly in spreading Buddhism eastward.
Under their rule, Buddhism flourished, and it was through their trade networks that Buddhism began its journey to China, eventually becoming one of the dominant religions in East Asia.
It's amazing how empires can inadvertently shape the religious landscape of the world. But after the Kushan decline, the Gupta dynasty emerged, controlling much of northern and central India.
The Gupta period is often called a golden age. It was a time of peace and prosperity, marked by advancements in art, literature, science, and mathematics. We have accounts from Faxian, a Chinese Buddhist pilgrim who traveled to Gupta, India, describing flourishing cities and sophisticated institutions like hospitals and universities.
It sounds like a remarkable era, showcasing ancient India's intellectual and cultural achievements. And Faxian's journey demonstrates the ongoing exchange of ideas between India and China.
Exactly. He brought back Buddhist texts to China, further contributing to the growth of Buddhism there. It highlights the interconnectedness of these ancient civilizations, how knowledge and beliefs traveled across continents.
It's a reminder that history is not a series of isolated events, but a complex web of interconnected stories. But the arrival of Islam in India in 711 CE marks a significant turning point, a new chapter in this complex story.
The conquest of Sind by Muhammad bin Qasim, an Arab general, brought Arab rule to the region for the first time. This event would have a lasting impact on India's religious and cultural landscape.
It adds another layer to the already diverse tapestry of Indian history.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that the story of ancient India is not a linear progression, but rather a tapestry woven from diverse influences and encounters.
Absolutely. It's a story that continues to unfold, revealing new layers of complexity with each discovery. But speaking of new influences, the rise of Mahmud of Ghazni in 1001 CE introduces another fascinating character to our story.
Mahmud of Ghazni was a powerful ruler who launched a series of military campaigns into northern India, primarily targeting wealthy Hindu temples. He's a controversial figure, admired for his military achievements, but also criticized for the destruction and looting associated with his raids.
A complex figure indeed, driven by ambition, religious zeal, and perhaps a thirst for wealth.
His reign highlights the turbulent nature of this period, a blend of cultural exchange, religious fervor, and military ambition that shaped the Indian subcontinent.
And it sets the stage for the emergence of the Delhi Sultanate, which would come to dominate much of India in the 13th century, marking a new chapter in the story of Islam in India.
The Delhi Sultanate faced numerous challenges, from internal rivalries to external threats, including the looming presence of the Mongols.
The Mongols, under leaders like Genghis Khan, were a force to be reckoned with. Their arrival in India in the 13th century posed a serious threat to the existing power structures.
And amidst this turmoil, a figure emerges known for his ruthlessness and ambition. Tamerlane, also known as Timur the Lame.
Tamerlane was a force of nature. He led conquests across Eurasia, including parts of India, leaving a trail of destruction.
He was a complex figure, capable of both brutality and remarkable cultural patronage. He was a patron of the arts, a scholar, and a ruthless conqueror, all rolled into one.
A man of contradictions, a true product of his time. But Tamerlane's legacy extends beyond his own life. His descendant, Babur, would go on to establish the Mughal Empire in India.
Babur's victory at the Battle of Panipat in 1526 marked the beginning of the Mughal dynasty, a dynasty that would leave an indelible mark on India.
A single battle changing the course of history. And Babur's legacy would be further solidified by his grandson, Akbar the Great.
Akbar was a truly remarkable ruler, known for his military prowess, administrative reforms, and policy of religious tolerance. He expanded the empire, but he also sought to create a harmonious society that embraced the diversity of its people.
It sounds like he was ahead of his time in his understanding of religious pluralism, recognizing the importance of inclusivity in building a strong and stable empire.
Absolutely. Akbar's reign was also a period of great cultural flourishing. Art, architecture, and literature all thrived under his patronage. He even tried to create a syncretic religion, Dini Ilahi, blending elements of different faiths.
Wow, that's fascinating. Though ultimately unsuccessful, it speaks to his vision of unity and his willingness to challenge traditional boundaries.
It does. And speaking of architectural achievements, Akbar's capital city, Fatehpur Sikri near Agra, is a stunning example of Mughal grandeur.
It's a testament to their architectural brilliance and the cultural fusion that characterized the Mughal era.
Exactly. But let's not forget Shah Jahan, Akbar's grandson, best known for building the Taj Mahal, one of the most iconic structures in the world.
Ah, the Taj Mahal, a masterpiece of Mughal architecture, a symbol of love, loss, and enduring beauty.
Shah Jahan's reign had its share of challenges, economic difficulties, and political instability, but his legacy is forever intertwined with that breathtaking mausoleum he built for his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal.
It's a testament to the Mughal Empire's grandeur and artistic brilliance.
This dynasty, with its blend of Persian and Indian influences, it really left a unique mark on India. They managed to hold on to power for centuries, which is incredible when you think about the vastness and diversity of the region they ruled.
It really is impressive. But were they just imposing their own culture, or was there a more nuanced exchange happening?
It's more complex than just a straightforward imposition. They definitely brought their own traditions and ways of doing things, but they also actively engaged with existing Indian culture. Think of it less like a takeover and more like a cultural fusion.
That makes sense. So they weren't trying to erase what was already there. They were
Right.
adding to it, blending with it.
Exactly. We see them embracing and supporting Indian art, music, and literature. This led to this vibrant mix of styles and ideas. You could even say it was a golden age of creativity.
Okay, no, that's fascinating. So it wasn't just about political power. It was about cultural influence as well. Okay, so we're wrapping up our deep dive, and I have to ask, what do you think is ancient India's most enduring legacy?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, there's so much to choose from, but I think for me, it's the idea that there are many paths to truth and enlightenment. Ancient India was this incredible melting pot of religious and philosophical ideas. Different traditions coexisted, sometimes even influenced one another. That openness to different perspectives, I think that's a really valuable legacy, especially in our world today.
You're so right. Ancient India really offers this powerful message, right? A message about seeking wisdom from multiple sources, embracing diversity of thought, and recognizing that we're all interconnected. What a beautiful and inspiring way to look at the world.
It has been a fascinating exploration. I hope it encourages our listeners to keep digging deeper, keep asking questions, and keep discovering the amazing tapestry of history.
Kind of said it better myself. And on that note, we've reached the end of our journey through ancient India. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.